my brothers and sisters, at first glance, we might think there is no relation at all between the first reading and the gospel proclamation. But in the gospel today, Jesus teaches us that generosity is measured not by what is given, but what is left over. The widow that Jesus pointed out was poor, and yet she had given everything she had, everything, to God. That giving of herself entirely is similar to Daniel and his companions in the Old Testament, because what do we hear about Daniel and his companions? They would rather suffer death, if need be, than to violate God's laws. Daniel and his companions have given everything that they have, even their own lives, to serving their God. And it's really, I think, a kind of a radical message for today's world. In a largely secular world where people are usually focused on gratification, personal gratification, Daniel and his companions really paint a different picture, a contrary message, a message that puts God first and adherence to even one's own personal pleasure second or even third, absolutely putting God and service to others first. And that's what the Christian martyrs did. So today the church honors St. Clement. St. Clement, the fourth pope of the church, and he was a martyr, like the three popes that preceded him. In St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, there's a reference to Clement. Many have commented that it's probably the very same Clement. In chapter 4:3, we read about this fellow laborer of St. Paul and the other apostles. He's one of those fellow laborers whose names are said to be recorded in the book of life. St. Clement succeeded St. Linus and St. Cletus after Peter. And we have two letters of St. Peter in the New Testament. We don't have anything written by Linus and Cletus. But then what do we have? We have St. Clement's letter to the Corinthians. And this letter is very instructive. Because of this, St. Clement is really considered the first of the early church fathers. A very, very important writing in the post-New Testament era. Clement died probably in the year 99 AD or shortly thereafter. And he died by being martyred, it is said, by literally having an anchor tied around his neck and thrown into the sea. But while Clement was still the Pope in Rome, probably about 96 AD, he wrote this letter to the church in Corinth. And he directed them back to the traditions that they had received from the apostles. And in this respect, what we have is the first exercise of papal authority that we have documented in writing after the death of St. Peter. Another first in Clement's letter would be the use of the word laity in its original Greek form, referring to the lay people in describing the non-ordained people who are also members of Christ's mystical body by virtue of their baptism. Clement reminds his readers that the church is not a human institution. It is a divine institution with Jesus as its head, and the sacramental authority given to the apostles and their successors, the bishops and the presbyters, with the church in Rome presiding in charity over the entire church, the universal church. So what is our takeaway today? Perhaps our takeaway from St. Clement is that not only the bishops and the priests are called to holiness, but we, just like Daniel and his companions in his day, all the baptized, are called to this life of holiness, to live as disciples of Christ, to grow in love and knowledge of Jesus Christ and his church, to build up his mystical body on earth while always mindful of our goal, that we have a heavenly goal, eternity in heaven, and to be like the widow in today's gospel, generously giving even from our very sustenance.